Eli, we're back and we're talking about Summer League. Summer League is quickly becoming like one of my favorite times of year.
Mm-hmm.
I used to, really love the draft. I still do. But the NBA's done some kind of amazing thing now where even the season's over, the draft is over, and I'm still like excited about basketball. How have you felt about the Summer League so far?
It's been really interesting. This previous draft class, honestly amazing, and being able to see a player like Zion Williamson obviously went down his first game, won't play for the rest of summer league, but being able to see that player live, watch his first game ever, you even watched it live, like actually in the stadium. That was insane.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just, it strikes you as like it's can really tell you if the player's going to be a bust or not. Watching the summer league, if they can't perform in the summer league, how are they going to perform in the real NBA?
Sure. So we try not to get too worked up. I just got back from summer league. I went out and spent 4 days in Vegas, so I got to see most of the teams in person, not all of them, and what an experience. I mean, you're going to go next year, but it's really well put together. The Thomas and Mack Center in Vegas is probably nicer than the Target Center that the Timberwolves play in, or it's at least as nice. And it's very similar, in fact, in the way that it's designed. And then right next door, you've got the Cox Pavilion, which is sort of like the smaller gym where they play the B games, if you will. Everything's really convenient. There's no waiting in line. There's like 100, food vendors. Plane tickets are cheap. It's $35 a day to go to the games. I spent an undisclosed amount of money on beer. We're not going to go there. but everything except for the beer is really cheap and really awesome. And kudos to the NBA. I never thought I'd see a day when a summer league game would be sold out at the Thomas and Mack Center. I don't know what the capacity is there, but to my eye, I would say there was like 10,000 people there or something like that. I mean, Floyd Mayweather was sitting in the front row, the fighter.
Yeah.
AD was there. I mean, when AD walked into the building, this place erupted. It was louder than any, I've mostly been to Timberwolves games. It was louder by far than any Timberwolves game that I've ever been to because it's packed with Laker fans, of course. And just talk about a crazy atmosphere and environment. It was probably like the best $35 I've ever spent on a ticket, and it was really, really fun. So I'm excited to get back out there. I think that 3-4 days is probably about the right duration. It's just blazing hot, of course. It's like 105 degrees every day. But the other thing is when you're out there watching those games, you see things that you don't get to see when you're just watching it on TV. Guys' body language and them calling out assignments on the court, and the camera can only really be in one spot at a given time, but I mean you can really see it sort of amplifies people's mistakes, and it also shows things like leadership qualities, and so we'll get into some of that. Let's see, where do we want to start here? We've been watching a lot of course, Celtics.
Yeah.
And Taco has become kind of the sensation of the summer league. There's a lot of different opinions about Taco. Clearly, the opinion of most NBA executives before the draft was he's not good enough to draft.
Yeah.
So now that we've seen quite a bit of him, what do you think?
Well, obviously he's playing on the Celtics right now, and the Celtics, I think, clearly believe that he is NBA level, or has the potential to be NBA level, because otherwise we wouldn't have waived Yabusele. So I think that to me that seems like a clear, indicator, yeah, to basically push for Taco. And he's surprised me a lot in games. Like, he's had a lot of good moments. Personally, I think he needs to expand on his game a little bit, because even though it's really fun to see him just receive the ball literally, 3 feet away and just dunk it by standing, that's going to get quite easy to defend, able to like cut out the outlet pass, especially with the very athletic guys down low in the post. It's not going to be as easy as it is now in the summer league.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So now there's some question about, do the Celtics try to make him a two-way player so that they can call him up throughout the year? Do they just drop his current Exhibit 10 contract and sign him to a legitimate like NBA minimum deal? Do they drop it and sign him to a legitimate non-minimum deal, give him even more than that? Do they keep him on Exhibit 10 and allow him to go play for the main Red Claws and get this $50,000 bonus? Like, where do you think he is? Do you think some people are way over here and some people are way over here? And I know where I am, but where do you sit? Are you like, sign him up long term? Let's go taco train.
I think a two-way deal seems like the best for him because, obviously that minimizes his days to be called up to the Celtics. But if we do need a man like him, like certain, players need to be guarded by a 7'6" or 7'7" in his shoes type of guy, we can just call him up instead of just basically keeping him down there. And obviously he'll develop better, but now he's able to play, both for the main, the G League, and then, obviously for us now, still get minutes. And I think he's always going to bring, he's going to bring the money to the Celtics. I think he's going to be a great attractor. I think you have to sign him. A minimum deal even, that would be solid as well. But long-term deal, I don't think you can do that. Just not right now.
Too much risk?
Yeah, too much risk.
Okay, so I'm kind of in the same spot that you are, except I'm a little bit more optimistic. I think I'm open to signing him to like a 2+1 team option deal, or can you find a big man for like $1 million a year? You really can't. They don't exist. And the only potential thing that would get in my way would be if there was some sort of injury risk or whatever. You just look at his size, and
he doesn't get off the ground much, so it doesn't seem like he'll get injured. But I mean, you never know.
Yeah, and he also seems to be well proportioned. Some of these people that are sort of gargantuan, they just look like they're an injury waiting to happen.
Yeah.
He just looks like a really tall 6'10" guy. They just stretched him out. But he's got, he's like 300-ish pounds right in there, and so I think he carries the weight well. I would say sign him. So quickly, what have you seen from Carson Edwards?
My favorite player so far in the summer league. I love the kid. His shot, he's able to pull it from anywhere, literally drain the shot. And I think, obviously now with the passing away of Tremont Waters' dad, it's very sad. But
rest in peace.
Yeah, I think he'll gain more minutes, obviously, since Tremont's going to be out. But we're not sure when he's coming back, is he? Or
we don't know.
Okay.
I would assume he would
probably not
for
play.
the summer league at all.
So I think Carson Edwards is going to have to step up. Obviously, that's one of our main draftees from this year's draft. Even though it's second round pick, he's excellent. But we're going to have to give Carson Edwards a couple more minutes, and he's got to show up, and this would really test him, I think.
Yeah. So the first. The first second round pick to receive a 4-year guaranteed contract a couple of years ago, or at least 3 years guaranteed and 1 year team option. You know who that was? Semi Ojeleye.
Oh.
Who was one of the very first people to get one of these 4-year deals as a second rounder, and the Celtics are sort of showing a lot of faith. I think that they looked at Shemi and they just said, "Here's a guy who's high character. We know exactly what we're getting. He can defend right now. He's going to live in the gym. He's smart. He's going to learn and probably get better." He hasn't produced on the court so much, but I just think you can't go wrong having a guy like that. Just imagine having to go up against him in practice.
Yeah. He's giant and he's beefed.
He is beefed.
It's insane.
He is a brick wall. And he can guard, I think he can guard a guy like Giannis as well as he did, as well as anybody in the league, even LeBron. The thing I hate, and this might be my bias, but man, he gets no love from the refs.
Yeah.
He plays just incredibly solid defense. He beats the guy to the spot, and then he gets whistled for some chintzy foul, and I'm just like, man, that's the whole reason he's out there. He's a defensive specialist. You got to show some respect for that man. But the reason I bring up that contract is because that's the deal that they gave Carson Edwards. 4 years, $4.5 million. is that like the best contract in the league? I mean, he hasn't even played a day in the league yet.
Yeah.
But I look at that and I go, this guy can shoot it at the NBA level. He's definitely going to be a contributor. There's no question in my mind he's going to come off the bench and score 10, 12 points a game at least. 4 years, $4.5 million. Is that just some sort of sweet deal for Danny? Like,
Definitely. You're getting like kind of a really budget Steph Curry, I would say.
Yeah.
And he has room to grow. Obviously, I think his shot selection needs to be improved.
yeah. He's
Massively.
a gunner and he can shoot. He has unlimited range, I think is what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then some shots he takes, and it's like, is that the shot we needed? And then you just see it drain, and it's like, okay, keep taking the shot.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like the no, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of those guys.
So I think that's a steal, I personally think. And, he'll eventually get more minutes and, possibly become that backup point guard if he gets to that level.
Yeah, I am curious about his defense. I watch him play, and he plays tough and physical. His lateral movement is pretty good. He doesn't show any glaring holes, but he also doesn't show to me as a plus defender.
Yeah.
So, but he has a 6'6" wingspan, so I think he can play the two and guard some two, and I feel like he's almost better suited at doing that because he can, a guy like, I don't know, DeMar DeRozan or something, I feel like he can push him around a little bit.
Yeah.
Get underneath him. Okay, so yeah, we both love Carson Edwards. How about Grant Williams? What are you feeling about Grant Williams?
Well, I know how you feel about Grant Williams.
Yeah.
So, at first, I personally just thought he's good. He's going to be a good locker guy. I never really thought that he's going to be this good.
Yeah. So we watched some film of him. I watched a bunch of Kentucky games. I watched like 3 Kentucky games, or it's not Kentucky, Tennessee. I mean, I said Kentucky because Tennessee played Kentucky in the SEC tournament. But Tennessee games. And then after the draft, after all that stuff, I went back and watched basically every game I could get my hands on. So before the draft, I was like, okay, I like him. I'm fairly high on him. But didn't have him going in our mock draft until 27.
Yeah.
27. So,
mean...
And then, so in hindsight, maybe it's just he becomes a Celtic and you want to love him, but I went back and watched all the games. And now I started watching him in Summer League. This kid can just flat out play.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a cerebral. He's only 6'7", but he plays like he's about 6'11". I'm talking to my buddies, I compared him to Carlos Boozer, who was a guy that's probably a little bit before your time, but undersized, really long arms, has a way of getting his shot off, has pretty good touch. Now the thing is, Grant Williams is showing us that he's got even more range than that. He's got range out to NBA 3, and the number one reason why I'm falling in love with this kid is his defense. He moves his feet. He's got a little bit of that, that Marcus Smart gene in him where he sort of quarterbacks the defense when he's on the court. He's pushing you over here and pushing you over there, and you got a little bit of a mismatch. Let me take this guy. You go out to the corner. Let me slide over. I'm rotating. Now I'm going to go close out on a 3. And it's like, how many of these guys, how many Grant Williams are on the court right now? He's like doing a little bit of everything. I'm in love with his game. I'm going to give my super hot take. Grant Williams is going to be your starting power forward for the Celtics.
Beginning of the season or eventually?
If Stevens is smart, right away.
Beginning of the season, yeah.
Right away. Jason Tatum at the 3, Grant Williams at the 4,
Hayward coming off the
Gordon
bench.
Hayward coming off the bench. That's right away. You got
Okay.
a $31 million guy on the bench. And that's the best team. Grant Williams is the best power forward on the Celtics roster right now, in my opinion.
But a thing to mention during this, people saying this whole Celtics Summer League team is like, it's not too great, all you went 4-0, can you really do it, in this playoff bracket.
Yeah.
We're doing all of this without our lottery pick, Romeo Langford.
Right.
That is huge.
Yeah.
And Romeo Langford comes back, and, obviously we haven't seen much of him yet, but he comes back, that just makes the team even better. And I think that this team already has great chemistry. The rookies are getting along really well. These guys are kind of going to come in, and they're going to play minutes. It's going to be absolutely huge. It's going to be so fun to watch. I I'm saying we're winning. Celtics winning 53 games this season, and
very hot take. Yeah, we were talking about this the other day about how many games you think that they're going to win.
Yeah,
we're like over the top optimism right now. Who needs Kyrie? Who needs Horford? Right?
I mean, you just watch a game of these guys, and you're thinking they make an impact right now. Even Robert Williams, he had a monster game versus Grizzlies.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to get minutes for sure.
I think he will get minutes. Now, I think that still shows as one of our weaknesses, and I think this is one of the reasons why Stevens is going to come to this realization that he has to start Grant Williams. He needs the toughness, and he needs the
Smart
rebounding,
player.
and he needs the defense. We have some holes, and you can only get away with starting Jason Tatum at the 4 for so long, or Gordon Hayward. He's just not a 4. He really isn't. And talk all you want about positionless basketball, but if you don't have, it's not just the toughness, but it's the post defense for one, and then two is in this game that's so pick and roll heavy, you have to be able to punish switches. So you run a 1-4 screen, and it's a big difference between Grant Williams getting that switch and Jason Tatum getting that switch. Because if your point guard is on Grant Williams, forget it. Forget it. He's just busting it, and he's just backing you down.
He doesn't commit either, which is huge because, players will just up fake, and Grant Williams stays strong, and then he still gets contest up quickly. Still getting to the face. While Tatum or, even Robert Williams, they're really quick off their feet. They want to go for the highlight block, and it's just like, calm down a little bit, it's not really needed.
Yeah, and one thing that you're going to see a lot of it is, of all the players in the draft, I think Grant Williams might have mastered the rule of verticality the best. So he uses it, of course, when he's playing defense, and he has a chance to contest but not block the shot, he will just get in perfect position and put his hands up. If he's going to meet you at the rim, he will go up completely vertically, and he will meet you at the rim. And there's been so many plays, and this was true of all the Tennessee games I watched, where he defends without fouling, and he makes it, these guys are attempting these weird circus shots that don't go in.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of, his IQ, he's way ahead of Robert Williams. Obviously in terms of his length and athleticism, not really close. Okay, so quick shouts to poor Tremont Waters, who, unfortunately his dad passed. But let's talk quickly about his game. What have you seen from his game in Summer League?
Just an overall really good point guard. Not many mistakes on defense. I think he can work on his gambling with steals and certain stuff like that.
Yeah, he does gamble a lot, but he gets paid off too because he's lightning fast.
So I think decision making with him, I think it's already great, but just if he's able to master that whole thing with gambling, I think he can be even better defender than he is right now. People saying his size, what is he, 5'11"?
5'11",
yeah. Undersized, I guess. I don't really see it on the court. Players, you think, okay, he's getting, it's a mismatch. He's playing shooting guard or whatever. He's playing point guard. You should be able to just score on this kid. It's not that easy. He makes it very, very difficult. And not only that, people saying that we're playing Carson Edwards and Tremont Waters, it's kind of undersized. It really isn't. It doesn't seem like it is, and it's worked. We're 4-0. So
he doesn't feel small when he's playing, right? He's the type of guy that the other team's going to target. Typically, they're going to say, "Well, let's do this 1-3 pick, and then we'll get Tremont in a switch, and then just have some kind of advantage." But every time that happened, he's taking the ball from you, or he's so quick and fluid around the screens that he doesn't wind up in mismatches. That's why he's co-defensive player of the year, I guess, for the SEC.
Yeah.
So I like it. Overall, Romeo Langford is a question mark. It's sort of a to be determined in terms of his grade. I like the Langford pick. He probably isn't the guy that I would have picked at that spot, but a lot of the guys that I really did want to pick were already gone.
Yeah.
in terms of a letter grade, what would you give Danny on his draft so far?
A minus. I would
A
say
minus.
mainly because I still have, there's a couple players on the board at 14 that I thought, could have been picked that weren't. But again, I can't judge Romeo Langford yet, so I'm saying A minus.
Okay. Now we've had a chance to watch some other games and a few other teams. Are there any other guys that have either surprised you positively or negatively, overachievers, underachievers? Now, I've got a few guys in mind, but I got to see them in person. So.
Yeah. One player that I was seeing, Lonnie Walker for the Spurs. He's killing it. Mm-hmm. Also, a player you're high on, Anthony Simmons, I think it was.
Anthony Simons.
Yeah, Simons, okay.
Yeah, so talk about those guys quick.
Yeah.
So Lonnie Walker is a second-year guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he played for Florida, I'm pretty sure. No, Miami. I think he was from Miami. And the Spurs have this, they have this strategy, I guess you could call it, that's really simple. And it's been working forever. And it is, you just draft guys that are selfless, that have like no ego, and play defense, have great defensive instincts. And they're like, we'll teach you the rest. Don't worry about it. So they pick a guy like Walker. He's coming in, he's like leading the summer league in shooting percentage practically, and scoring like 30 points a game.
Yeah.
But one thing that stood out to me when you watch a summer league game that's interesting is, we think of the summer league as being this like farm system, where these are all the guys who are just about good enough to be in the NBA, but not quite. So it's sort of like they're one step below. They're like the AAA club. But then you watch the games and it's like, wow, these guys are so bad.
Yeah.
compared to actual NBA players. So there's this weird thing that happens. The NBA and all these different teams and their training staffs and their coaching and their shooting coaches and their round-the-clock nutritionists and spending 1 year in the league makes you so incredibly much, so much better. That the talent and skill and IQ gap between the new incoming summer league guys and the returning second-year guys, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
You watch like Kevin Knox last year, and he's lost.
Yeah.
You watch him this year, he looks like the best dude in the summer league. He's just draining threes, or like a guy like Alonzo Trier, or you name it. Robert Williams looks 100 times better than he did last year, and so it's kind of hard to evaluate. But the other tendency that leads towards is the teams, the summer league teams that come in and they're playing like all rookies from this year's class. Wow, some of them look really bad. And then the teams that come in and they have a few anchors like second year guys to keep things calm, they look much better. And then this is true to a lesser degree. The teams that come in that have experienced college players, like not one and dones, guys like Carson Edwards and Trey Waters and Grant Williams, they come in and they just look like they actually know how to play.
Yeah.
And these other guys look like street ballers, and so it's interesting. The quality of play varies from like zero, like it looks like a YMCA game, all the way up to, these guys look like a legit college team. And so you see something like China gets beat by 40. They just get throttled one night. The next night they beat Charlotte. It's like, what's going on? How are these teams in the same league?
Yeah.
They're really not in the same league for the reason that I just described. Okay, so the very first game when I was watching Portland, and I was texting you and I was texting my buddies, and it took me about 5 minutes. 5 minutes of watching Anthony Simons, and I'm texting him like, whoa, watch out, this kid is the real deal. And it wasn't, I don't know. I think he'd maybe scored like 4 points or 6 points or something like that. But just his demeanor, his swagger, his like presence on the court, the way that he was controlling the game, he was calling out. He was just like calling shots in between plays. He's talking to his teammates. He's telling them, you got to be over here, you got to be over there. Even in the middle of the play, he handles the ball in a way that's so effortless. You know, it's almost like he has a second brain that's like dribbling the ball over here. His main focus is like he's telling everybody where to go. And no, you can't steal it from me. I'm too good. There's just no way, right? So he's got this handle. I would say it's, you know, I compared it to like a Steph Curry handle, but now after having watched him a little bit more, I would say it's maybe like one grade below.
Sure.
And mainly because, you know, his strength is not quite there yet, but amazing handles. This kid's got shooting touch that's just feathery. I mean, when he shoots it, it's not just going in, it's just going to make that sweet wet sound from like 25 feet, right? Also then his composure, his quickness. For me, in terms of my summer league takeaway, I thought he was probably one of the best players, if not the best player there. And now he's small. He's not that strong. He doesn't even have a frame where he's ever going to be that strong.
Yeah.
Probably. But you know, that's not the way the league is going. He's, in terms of skill level, extreme skill, extremely high skill level. All the moves, all the handles, all the shots, in between game, floaters, pull-ups, step backs, you name it. He's even doing some stuff that I'm like, who have I seen do that before? And it's like, I don't think I've seen anybody do that before. You know,
yeah.
I think he's the real deal. Another guy who I think we underrated is Fiondu Kabengele. Mm-hmm. Fiondu Kabengele, he got drafted by the Clippers. He's Dikembe Mutombo's nephew. And I don't even know what his measurements are, but looking at him, he looks like a slightly smaller, a slightly plumper, maybe Jaren Jackson Jr.
Okay.
And he is just a hawk. You know, he's like going after every shot, and his length makes him sort of just present. I think it's a great pickup for the Clippers. He's like a slightly lower energy Montrezl Harrell. He's not as bouncy, but he's long in the same way. And he's a more natural shot blocker. And I mean, Harrell's a decent shot blocker too, but I think Kabengele is sort of made to be a shot blocker. I think if you're doing a draft redo, move Kabengele way up. Let's see, who else do we want to talk about here? Sekou Doumbouya, like a lot of players here, didn't get to play or has been sitting out. But I did get to see him, you know, doing some warm-ups and saw quite a bit of him in pretty close proximity. He looks different in person. Mm-hmm. He looks like he's got this frame where he's definitely going to need to add some bulk. His shooting touch is not where you want it to be. Just in watching him in warm-ups, there's a lot of inconsistency in his mechanics and his release. It's coming out left, right. You just never know. It could be long. So, you know, I was pretty high on him before the draft. I think that where he was picked, I can't remember exactly. Where was he picked by Detroit's in the low teens or something like that?
15, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, 15. I would say that's probably about right. I think he's a little bit more of a project than what I originally thought.
Sure.
Let's see, who else? Another guy who, have you gotten to see Kobe White at all yet?
A little bit, a couple of highlights.
Yeah. So he's an interesting guy. You know, he's 6'5", but he actually looks smaller for some reason. And he's one of these weird guys who's 6'5", but beats you with his quickness,
Okay.
which you don't see a lot of,
Yeah.
right? 6'5", you think he's going to be like a post you up kind of point guard. He's definitely not that. He also has these really short arms, and you can almost tell when you're watching him. You know, a lot of point guards, when they're like, say at the end of a quarter, a lot of point guards like a Marcus Smart, he'll just like put his back to you and dribble it over here, and it's like, you can't get it from me. My arms are too long. Kobe can't really do that. Kobe's arms are so short that when he does, and he also dribbles it high. Like he seems to have a habit of dribbling very high and being very erect sometimes when he dribbles. So he exposes the ball a lot. I think he's going to have some turnover problems. But when he does this, when he tries to turn his body, people just get up into him and slap the ball away. Also, it looks like he doesn't have the handles to really deal with that kind of pressure. But what he does do instead is he'll, just sort of keep the ball close, and then when he senses that you're getting too close to him, he'll just burst past you.
Yeah.
So he's a very non-traditional guard in that way. I don't love him in terms of him being an impact player this year. I think that he's going to definitely get some run. He'll definitely have some 20-point games, and I don't think that you could be Chicago might not be terribly disappointed, but I think when we look back on this, Kobe White is going to be like a B- level point guard. I'm just throwing out some hot long-term takes here. Let's see, who else did we get a chance to see so far? I mean, I got to see the Zion versus RJ Barrett showdown. Yeah. RJ Barrett's been a little bit disappointing in terms of his production. I'm not really worried about it. I think he's going to be just fine. We have started to see some of his limitations in terms of when he gets the ball, what can he do with it? And the answer is, he's a grindy player. So he'll back you down. He'll go right. He'll switch back to the left hand. All the while, he's just trying to get to the rim, and then he's just gonna power it up through you with this really strong upper body. He's not going to be, he's not a supernatural offensive or defensive player, but I think he's just so strong and such a hard worker, and wants it so bad. I think he's gonna be just fine. Daniel Gafford is another guy who has looked really good in the minutes that I've seen him. He looks like he's got the type of frame that you can build on, and he has good NBA size. He's definitely going to get some run, and he finishes extremely well. Let's see. Anybody else that we saw on this list?
I saw an insane dunk by Jackson Hayes.
Oh, really?
Absolutely nasty.
Really?
Yeah, like it was a killer. I gotta show you.
I think maybe I did see it. He was sort of coming around the backside, and he just went up. But was it an alley oop, or did he just already have the ball and go up?
It was a pass. I think it was a pass to him because it was a screen, and then he rolled, and then point guard passed to him. I forgot who it was who passed to him, but it passed to him, and he just obliterated a guy. It was insane.
Okay. Okay, so let's talk then. I think that's all I've got on Summer League stuff. And we'll have to circle back. Luka Samanic is one other guy that... the Spurs, that's what I forgot to talk about. So Luka Samanic is... he's a guy who doesn't really fit the traditional Spurs mold as much. Or maybe he fits a different Spurs mold, and that mold is big guys who are athletic and really quick on their feet. For a 6'11" guy, this guy is extremely mobile. I was going to say a Tyson Chandler, but even more mobile than that, young Tyson Chandler. He's going to be a rim runner. He's got some interesting touch. He doesn't really have NBA three-point range consistently right now, but his shot doesn't look too bad. And he's got a little bit of fancy play syndrome. I saw him, catch the ball, try to throw a couple behind the back passes. I saw him go between the legs and then try to cross a guy up and lose the ball. And it's like, Pop is not going to love this, probably. But I think he's going to be a fine player. And then Keldon Johnson is a guy who I think I think I picked him I had him going 17th to the Nets. He ends up going 30th to the Spurs. He's been killing it at Summer League.
And 29th, actually.
Oh, did he go 29th? 29th to the Spurs. There you go.
Yeah.
So he's an interesting player. He doesn't have a good first step, and he's kind of wiry. His 3-point shot looks great to me. I wasn't sure if he's going to have NBA 3-point range, but it looks really good. And he's interesting because he's the type of guy where you can't really run a play for him. Like, you can't post him up. He's not that kind of guy. You can't ISO him because he doesn't really have the first step. He can't really get past anybody. But then you look up at the end of the game, it's like, oh, he's got 26 points. How did he do it? He's like a mini garbage man. He just does all the little things, these little follow-ups, putbacks. He's running the wing on the break. He's causing a turnover. He's playing great defense. So he's kind of an enigma to me. I don't know exactly how you use him, but when he's out there, good things are happening. So I think he's definitely going to be good. Okay, switching gears a little bit here. Tons of trade action going on.
Yeah.
Pretty much around the Oklahoma City Thunder. So Presti making some big time moves.
Yeah.
First off, what do you think about the Paul George deal to the Clippers? So essentially the deal is, the way that I think of it is Paul George for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who I think is a stud. I've loved his game. I think he was like the third best player in that draft class. So you get Shai, and then you get as many draft picks as they allow.
Yeah.
Literally, we're going to give you all 5 picks that we can give you plus the 2 swaps, right? It's like, I think that's legally as much as you can give. You can't be trading picks 10 years away.
Yeah.
So I think they just go, we'll give you everything we have, all in, for Paul George for 2 years, plus a 1-year, player option.
Yeah.
So he could bolt in 2 years. So what do you think of that deal? Do they have to win the title this year to make that deal make sense?
Well, Kawhi, obviously I think that the Clippers knew, well, they didn't know, but Kawhi told them that you had to trade for Paul George in order for me to sign with you.
Yeah.
So they traded for Paul George, or they signed Kawhi, and then obviously everyone was like, oh my, that's insane how this happened. Then the Paul George trade came through, and all the rumors came in about Kawhi kind of luring.
Orchestrating it.
Yeah, basically. So I think you don't have to win it this next following year, but you have to win it while Paul George is with you on his contract.
Sure.
You shouldn't be if you don't win a championship and he resigns, that's automatic a failure, I think. Even if he wins afterward, even if he does extend his contract.
You want to see a title in these 2 years that 2 to 3 years if he accepts his option.
And I mean, people underrate this Clippers team a lot because this previous Clippers team brought the Golden State Warriors to 6 games. They won 2 games, which is huge versus a healthy Warriors team as well.
And you know who the keys to that series were?
Patrick Beverly, Lou Williams. I mean, like
Lou Williams, yeah, exactly. Patrick Beverly and Lou Williams, who are going to be back.
And then you have Montrezl Harrell as well, who is huge. And
Gallinari was a part of that.
Yeah, it wasn't that big, honestly.
I don't think he was that big a part of it, to be perfectly honest. I mean, you could look at the numbers. He gets to the line a little bit. He's a reliable free throw shooter, but Paul George is going to be a fine replacement for him.
You also have Landry Shamet as well. He's a shooter.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get that one shot, I believe, that actually I think either one of the game and the end of one of the games.
He hit a number
huge.
of big shots. Yeah, I don't know what his percentages look like, but he came up pretty big.
And the team yells grit and grind,
Oh yeah, especially with Harrell.
Yeah, and just bringing Kawhi and Paul George. That team is literally defense, and it's scary.
And you know who we were just talking about, Kabengele.
Yeah.
Don't overlook this kid. He has an NBA body, and he's ready to play right now. And especially if you can, you put him out there. Can you imagine, with Kawhi, I think he can play some small ball 5. and be just like Harrell. So at like 3, 4, 5, you can have Kawhi, Paul George, and Cavangeli. Kawhi, Paul George, and Montrez. Harrell. Wow, the defense on this team is scary. And then Pat Beverly. I mean, you do not want to play against these guys. This could be one of the all-time defenses if everybody stays healthy.
Yeah.
So, what about for Oklahoma City? Maybe their hand was forced a little bit, and maybe they didn't have the, flexibility or the freedom to really dictate what was going to happen here.
Yeah.
If you have to get rid of Paul George and somebody says, we'll give you absolutely as many draft picks as the NBA allows us to, is that a good deal?
I think for sure, because you're giving away Paul George, and it was kind of like the Anthony Davis trade. The Pelicans had to accept something, because if you don't accept something, then he's going to be gone next season for free. So, he's basically forcing a trade away. And I think since you just exited in the first round previous year, I think if that team can't win it, you have to rebuild. You can't, and not rebuild around Westbrook either. Obviously, that's another trade coming up here. But I think the fact that you're able to get so many draft picks, Shai Gilgeous, who by the time those draft picks come up will be insane. I think, a great point guard, huge point guard. And then obviously Gallinari's contract isn't ideal, but I believe it's a 1-year deal, 1 or 2, I don't know. But it'll be expiring by the time you get those draft picks up. So I think you couldn't have got a much better deal for Paul George, especially for a player that's, wants out. Mm-hmm. So I think that was a good trade by Oklahoma, and I think probably one of the best things you can get.
I agree. I think that this is a slam dunk win for Oklahoma City, and if the Clippers run off two championships right here, whatever.
Yeah.
In terms of if you're Oklahoma City, whatever. As long as they're bad, in a few years after that, and there's no guarantees in this league. That's why, people assume like, you signed, you got Anthony Davis. I guess they're gonna win the championship, or this Warriors dynasty. Oh, I guess nobody's gonna win another title except for the Warriors for 10 years. Well. Did that really happen?
Nope.
Everybody who thinks they know what's going to happen is wrong. And so when you make a deal like this where you take over their draft assets for the next 7 years, you only stand to benefit from this uncertainty. That's just a reality of the league. So then the follow-up, they then turn around and deal Russell Westbrook, and Houston essentially says the same thing. We'll give you Chris Paul plus all the draft picks. Just take them.
Yeah.
Right? 5 of them or whatever. Or no, 4 of them. So now Oklahoma City just acquired 8 first-round picks. It's insane. Plus a bunch of pick swaps too, just in case one of these teams happens to get bad.
Yeah.
And you know what can happen when you have a guy making $40 million a year on your roster? Sometimes you can get bad.
Yeah. Because
you don't have enough flexibility to make the moves required to stay competitive. So what do you think about the deal for Oklahoma City? We'll give you Westbrook, and we'll take back Chris Paul and all your draft picks.
Again, I think Oklahoma won it because how stacked the West is already. Houston wasn't a contender, in my opinion, with Chris Paul, and not going to be a contender with Russell Westbrook. They may prove me wrong, but I mean, with the teams like Lakers and Clippers, sorry to break it to you, probably second round exit at best. So
I agree. If everybody stays healthy, I think that there's no way you can even put them better than third.
Yeah.
And you can make an argument for the Jazz making them fourth.
And you have Trailblazers coming out, just made the Western Conference Finals. And then you have Nuggets, who aren't bad. I mean,
wow, the West is just loaded.
Yeah.
Would anybody be shocked if the Houston Rockets finished 6th?
Even the Warriors, we didn't even mention them.
The Warriors, I know. I mean,
honestly,
to be perfectly honest, I would not be shocked if the Rockets landed anywhere between 1st and 6th.
Yeah.
Or 7th. 1st and 7th. It's that tight. It's really tough to call. But I agree with you. I think Oklahoma City comes out the winner, long-term winner. This is going to take a while to play itself out. What do you think about the the Jazz, picking up Conley.
Yeah.
And then they signed Bogdanovich,
Mm-hmm.
who is, I mean, he might be so underrated that he's overrated now.
Yeah.
But he can really play. How do you like the Jazz if it's, Conley, Bogdanovich, Mitchell,
and then to Bogdanovich.
and then to Bogdanovich, and then probably Ingles and Gobert.
Okay. Tough to say. I wouldn't say they're contending. Again, that's...
You wouldn't say?
No,
Okay.
I wouldn't say so. But, again, that's a really good team. And anything's possible, in basketball.
What
It's
else do
been
you
proven
need?
wrong.
I mean, if that can't contend, what else do you need?
You need other teams to suck. I mean,
You need other teams to not have Kawhi
Yeah.
Leonard and
Paul George or LeBron and AD.
Anthony Davis, yeah.
It's insane. So, but I think that team purely off of defense can surprise people. Then again, you have Clippers who are all defense. So
I think that Utah's going to be good.
Yeah.
But you look around the league and it's like, geez, how good can they be?
Yeah.
50 wins?
I think above 50 wins
Yeah,
should be.
more than
Anything
50.
anything less than 50 is disappointment.
That
in my
would be a
opinion.
disappointment, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So, what do we think about the Nets?
No.
We talked briefly about it before. They add Kyrie. They lose D'Lo.
Deal, yeah.
They lose a bunch of other guys too.
Basically their whole bench. Pretty
Yeah,
much.
pretty much their whole bench is gone.
Uh,
Do we think they are a playoff team?
this year, yeah, probably. I would assume. I mean, Kyrie isn't gonna miss the playoffs, honestly, and the East is just like,
Mm-hmm.
A lot of teams last year in the playoffs were kind of just iffy for me, and I think they're a pretty clear
Yeah.
first round exit. But I think if the Nets last year made it, they should make it this year, realistically, with Kyrie.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and
But-
say they don't make the playoffs.
Okay, they're probably gonna be.
I think they finish about 10th in the East.
I'd say 10th or 9th. They're
Ninth?
not gonna go lower than that. But
Yeah.
even at first, I was kind of like, okay, KD to the Nets, that's insane at first, and Kyrie to the Nets, that's insane, along with DeAndre Jordan. Now it's kind of like, I mean, that team, I don't think it's going to win a championship with how good the Lakers and Clippers are currently. They might get to the finals maybe once, twice max. But even the East, the Bucks, they
Yeah.
lost Brogdon, which was huge.
Yeah.
And then, 76ers obviously reforming a team around possibly Al Horford, which is
Yeah.
disgusting.
Ugh, that's gross.
And even the Celtics, they can make it.
There's something going on right now in the league where there's a lot of parity.
Just duos.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
It's well. Let me just ask you this, just to illustrate. Like, who are the 5 worst teams in the league? And you have to think about
Yeah.
it. That's my point is, you go, man, are there 5 really bad teams in the league? How about Cleveland?
Cleveland, the Suns, I would say.
The Suns.
Compared off last year.
Yeah, I mean, you can only go off last year, but you know what? One thing I will say quickly about the Suns is I listened to James Jones giving an interview. He's the new GM. Wow, he's a smart guy. And it was a little bit unclear to me why they were making these moves. They gave Josh Jackson away for peanuts. Yeah. They gave my guy TJ Warren from NC State away for peanuts.
Yeah.
But you know what he did? He's coming in and cleaning house. He's just like, you don't play defense, you're out. You have a bad attitude, you're out. You're bad off the court, you're out. You're bad in the locker room, you're out. And then he's like, if you're like a guy like Cam Johnson, you're like a 5th-year senior, you're really mature, you do it, play the right way. All right, we'll take you 10th or 11th or whatever it was, like way ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
And then they got my boy Ty Jerome for all the same reasons, right? And so, this is my early prediction. I love what James Jones is doing out there, and I think he's going to turn this franchise around.
Okay.
It's not going to happen overnight, but then he also brought in who else did they sign? Did they sign Rubio?
They might. I think they did actually.
Okay. Yeah.
But also to mention that they re-signed Kelly Oubre.
Oh.
On a, I don't know.
See, I don't know how Oubre fits into
Yeah.
all this. 'Cause Oubre seems to embody a lot of the things that I don't
Yeah.
love. You know, he's picking fights and
That was a Wizards Oubre. Maybe he's changed a little
maybe
bit.
he's changed.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I do like what's happening there. But anyways, back to the point about the worst teams in the league. So you got the Suns, who I think are going to turn it
Pretty
around.
good.
I don't know how many wins they had last year. Not many.
The Cavs, who
The
were I think
Cavs.
are just overall bad. They're not.
Yeah,
I mean,
and so
Garland.
here, even the worst teams in the league, like say the Cavs, you got Colin Sexton, who I like, he's a good player. Kevin Love,
Garland.
good player. Garland, who I am really high on, I think he's going to be really good. And still one of the worst teams,
Yeah.
right? And then who else? Who else do we even lump in there as was one of the worst teams? I'm like looking
Hornets
for
for sure.
the Hornets.
The new Hornets, yeah. They're
Yikes.
yeah.
So they lost Kemba, and who did they add?
Mr. Terry Rozier on a huge contract.
Way to go, Terry. Scary Terry. There's this video that was circulating, or like it's probably a YouTube thing, but it was like comparing Rozier's shot mechanics and play style to MJ.
Oh yeah.
And how they look exactly the same. You know MJ's seen that video, and you know
It's
he's like, I'm giving this kid big money. He's like a spitting image of me. Go check out that video on YouTube if you haven't seen it. So let's see what else. What happened to Bol Bol? I know the answer, but I'll ask you.
He dropped a lot.
He dropped all completely off of our
Yeah.
sheet, right? He didn't really get picked until...
We had him 13th.
That was your pick, I want to remind
That
you.
was?
Yes, it was.
You sure?
Yes, it was, because you were odd.
Oh
and
yeah, I
even.
was odds. Oh no. Well, I wasn't gonna pick him second round, to be honest here.
Yeah, well,
But-
we didn't do a second round mock.
Yeah.
So, but I will tell you one thing that a lot of fans don't factor in. If you just looked at his basketball skills, you just looked at his instincts and the way he does things on the court, and his physicals and his mechanics, you go, wow, holy moly, this guy's going to be really good. And that's kind of what I said after watching one highlight video. Then you watch an interview with people speaking to him, and you're like, ooh, oh boy. He, how do I say this nicely? He seems to be one of these kids that sort of stopped maturing. I don't want to say that it's like a handicap. I just want to say that in terms of maturity, he sort of comes across like an 8th grader.
Okay.
And as a guy coming out of college, that's not great. And it's also the type of thing that you're not going to fool anybody in an interview. Some of these kids have troubling things happening off the court, but they also know, to say the right things. If you listen to 100 interviews at the Combine, boy, they sound a lot alike.
Yeah.
Because all these kids know the right things to say. I'm going to come and do whatever the coach asks of me. We're here to do whatever it takes. I'm ready to win. Winning is the only thing that matters. I know I have a lot of room for improvement. I'm ready to be coached. Blah, 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 blah. Right? Every single one of them, it's like these contestants on American Idol. They've been trained for it their entire lives. They never say a wrong word, and if they do, it gets cut.
Yeah.
But Bol Bol didn't even show me the wherewithal to say the right things. I mean, he was just sort of like, kind of came across as a snotty 8th grader who was just like, yeah, whatever. So I think that looks troubling to me.
Okay.
You know who it reminds me of?
Who?
Almost exactly. Markelle Fultz.
Same attitude?
Same attitude. Fultz is a little bit higher energy, and he's a little bit wacky, you would say. He's one of these kids that looks like he's a 7th grader having a sleepover, and he's like the loud, obnoxious kid in the room, and you want to tell him to shut up and go to bed. Bol Bol is more like, I'm playing my video games, leave me alone kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But both of them really seem to be lacking in maturity, and
It's shown for Markelle Fultz.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
he's gone.
the NBA is a grind.
Yeah.
And there are grown men out there trying to take your job every day. And it's really hard to get into the NBA, but it's even harder to stay in the NBA.
Yeah.
I mean, if you slip and you're not performing at, by year 3,
You're out.
later.
Peace.
Yeah. So, Bol. It's too bad. We didn't really get to see. I haven't seen Jarrett Culver, at least. I think he was gonna make his debut now that they got the contract signed. I'm excited to see him. I did see Rui Hachimura, who was the guy we were both high on.
He's solid.
Yeah.
Already, I can already tell.
Pretty much everything that. Pretty much everything that was expected from him, he delivered on. He looks like he's got an NBA body. He's ready to play immediately, and he's gonna be darn good. PJ Washington didn't play. Brandon Clark was sort of just as advertised. He played pretty good in limited minutes. He's bouncy. He showed a little bit of 3-point range. He knocked down a couple of threes in the game that I watched. So he looked pretty good there.
Brandon Clark, where's he picked up?
Clark he played against the Celtics once already.
We had him 11th, and he's not even top 19.
I think he picked by the. No, he wasn't picked by the Wolves.
Was it? Wait, was it the Grizzlies? Because I think I saw him playing.
Oh yeah,
Thursday.
maybe that's what it was.
I think it was him.
But I saw him play in another game before they played the Celtics. But anyways, he looks pretty good. Our Celtics are about to play here coming up in a few hours. What do you make of the Knicks? I want to ask you about the Knicks free agent signings, okay?
Okay.
So you got Julius Randle,
Power forward.
Bobby Portis,
Power forward. Morris.
Potentially Marcus Morris.
Yeah. Who is
power
a power
forward.
forward.
And then who's the guy we're not even thinking of? There's one more, right? I can't remember who it was, but they've now potentially signed 4 power forwards in free agency to go along with Kevin Knox, who's a 6 foot. What is he? 6'9"?
Yeah. I don't know. Just tall.
He's about 6'9", I would say. But are we calling him a power forward? Is he a power forward?
Dude.
I don't know.
That franchise. It's a...
Holy moly.
Wow.
Yeah, you have all the cap room in the world, right? You've set it up perfectly. And now it's like...
You missed out on KD and Kyrie, and you just buy, you know what? I want you, all at the power forward position.
Everybody just separate by position. We'll take all the power forwards. It sounds like they did arrange it in such a way where they're not going to be burdened for too long, I don't think.
Yeah.
2 years plus a 1-year team option on some of these guys. But, yikes. Some of these guys like Bobby Portis on big money. Not loving that. Let's see. Who else made big splashes anybody else make big splashes in free agency? Of course, the Celtics signing Kemba was a nice one. Okay, so the Heat land Jimmy Butler, and they get rid of Hassan Whiteside. So first off, Hassan Whiteside, do you think he makes the Blazers better? He's sort of a Yusuf Nurkic replacement.
Yeah, I don't like that though. Really, I mean, the injury Nurkic had was really bad, but
he's probably not going to play until middle of the year or better.
Yeah, so and he's probably not going to play at his best until.
Right, big guys like that, that's rough.
It's tough, but I think he obviously makes them better in that, especially that position. And I think if Nurkic comes back at his best, the way he was playing insane. Like,
I
wow.
think Nurkic's as good as Whiteside for sure.
Yeah. So
sure. And
signing him to big bucks was, or like getting him for big bucks was just like questionable. But I think it makes him better. Right now, yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
But he's not.
You can't have too much depth at the
Yeah.
center, a defensive center. You know, we've learned that.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess Dame and CJ both have some sort of relationship with Hassan, like off the court. They already knew him and got along with him. So maybe that works out. How about the other direction? How about the Heat? Do the Heat matter? Are they relevant with Jimmy Butler?
I mean,
When we go play the Heat, are we worried or
that team always just wants to win, and I think,
well coached?
yeah, well coached. Oh, am I worried about them? I think the Celtics would beat them in pretty much every game that we play against them, home or away. I'm not too scared of them, but then again, Jimmy, you know, he can pick any night.
Jimmy can steal a game from you.
Yeah. So in a playoff series, I think Celtics take it easily. I think, you know, most teams in the East feel pretty comfortable against them, especially just one-star Jimmy Butler. But there was rumors about Chris Paul going to the Heat as well. So if they get Chris Paul,
this will probably happen.
Yeah.
This makes sense to me because what does Oklahoma City want with Chris Paul?
yeah,
Really, Chris Paul, I think, has burned some bridges. You know, he's just got such an attitude. He's like a slightly more reserved Grayson Allen. You know, he's not going to slap you on the back of your head like Grayson might, but he will do some things that are really annoying. And he's also not afraid to call out his teammates, and yeah, I don't know. He's just one of these guys. Quickly, because Grayson Allen, it was kind of funny. We just watched it. How do you feel about Grayson Allen going from Utah to Memphis?
Screw him. You know what? Try your hardest at Memphis. But dude,
Like I watched him play last year for Utah, and he had a couple of games, in fact, where he went off. And from the first day that he was playing, I was like, wow, this guy looks like an NBA player. He did have some issues, you know, at Duke. And boy, they resurfaced like last night or 2 nights ago against the Celtics.
The thing is, I was kind of annoyed with his attitude because even though they were losing by like, you know, whatever, 20, 30, nearly 30.
Yeah.
The fact that he was playing pretty well, actually. You know, he was draining shots from us. If anything, was their one chance of even having a chance to come back in that game. And he just decides back-to-back plays to just push Grant Williams and then knock him upside the head. Just karate chop him on the head. It's like, what the heck? And then, we saw the reaction of the coach on the bench, and he's just like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and the announcer, too.
Yeah.
And so this was kind of like a 1, 2, 3 sequence. So in the first one, almost like 1, 2, 3, 4. The first one, Grayson gets bumped just a little bit, and
just
turns around and shucks Grant Williams, like pushes him, a sort of a awkward punching motion on the back of the head, throws him. Grant might have embellished this a little bit. But then Grant's got it in his head, all right, punk. You know? And so then Grayson's coming around on the baseline, and Williams just steps into him and ding! And it was like one of those cartoons.
Yeah.
We didn't see it on the first one, but we went back and watched it, and Grayson just stood upright.
He's just paralyzed.
Yeah,
it's just like,
paralyzed. And then not more than like 10 seconds later, if even that, they dump it into Williams, and
Grayson
does
just
this
goes up.
Karate chop
Goes
action.
up for a block.
It
almost
for a block, smokes Grant on the back of the head. And it's like, come on, Grayson, you're gonna go after the strongest dude on the court.
And then he complains about the call, and it's just like, oh, what? Okay, yeah, you karate chop a guy in the back of the head. Yo, I was going for the block. What do you mean? Like, no, you were not.
Right. Okay. Well, Grayson Allen, good luck, sir. Hopefully you don't go the way of Markelle Fultz.
Yeah.
But we'll stop this one here. This is kind of a long one, and then there's probably still more to talk about. But we'll be back at you soon.